Guten gardening, everybody. We have a newly empty 3x6 bed and a whole bunch of really nicely sprouted potatoes that we saved from the grocery store, and a burning desire to figure out if we've waited too long to grow some fall potatoes. Now, if you're brand new to our channel, you might not know this, but we love growing potatoes and sweet potatoes, and for the past couple of years we've been experimenting with growing fall potatoes. So a crop that's going to be harvested later than the rest of our potato crops and planted much later, in an attempt not to waste any of the seed potatoes that we might have left. And we've actually done that in quite a few different ways. We've grown them in raised baskets, in grow bags, even in smaller containers with varying results. Now, typically, we've planted them around the beginning of July. We have planted all the way up to the middle of July, but you can see we're a week past that date at this point. And the fall potatoes that we planted in early July were potato seedlings. We took some of our Magic Molly potatoes, we planted them into a smaller pot and let them start to develop the greens, and then transplanted those into hanging baskets. We transplanted those into grow bags, and what we found was that the Magic Mollies did fine. They did well after about 75 days. We were able to harvest in late October. We also found that some of them in our hanging baskets, they were growing for a good bit longer, over 100 days, but we were able to that season harvest all the way into November, and really that's dependent on the weather. But the Magic Mollies performed well as early or new potatoes within 70 to 80 days. Not every variety performs as well. We did the same thing. We grew some yellow fins in hanging baskets, and we still got potatoes, but after about 85 days growing those yellow fins, the results were a much smaller potato. And granted, when you're talking about 70 to 80 days with a potato that typically takes 100 days, it makes sense that the potatoes you get are going to be a little bit smaller. Now, I mentioned our Magic Mollies and our yellow fins as some of the fall potatoes we grew, but we also grew some French fingerling potatoes, which we also saved from the store. I think it was like a 1-pound bag for 99 cents. Those were old and wrinkly. We got them to sprout. We planted them in July, beginning of July, and we harvested those around the 22nd of October, and the yield was about 7 to 1. We got about 7 pounds of French fingerlings from that 1 pound of planting. So we've definitely seen varieties with good results. Well, this time around, I don't actually know the variety of this red potato, because what we saw on the bag was this is an organic, you guessed it, red potato. In this area, if we saw a red skin potato, it would likely be something like a Norland Red or a red Pontiac. But again, I'm not sure. I just know it has red skin and a yellowish flesh. And we saved it from the store, and it had already started sprouting at the time we brought these home. And now the ones that I'm going to be planting today are covered in these eyes, and most of the eyes are about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inches long, a great size for seed potatoes, which means once we get these planted in this bed, they should take off really nicely and start developing. And we'll know within a couple of months if we waited too long to plant these for a fall potato harvest. Now, when I say we saved these from the store, these were 5-pound bags that we bought for about 79 cents each. That's a really good deal. And we've also already planted these in a couple of buckets, in a couple of grow bags and other containers. So it will definitely be interesting to see how this planting compares to those other setups. And also, given the fact that we planted those a good bit earlier than these are going to grow, we'll see how that yield also differs. Now, if you want to see any of those previous videos on fall harvest, plantings, etc., I'm going to make sure that there are cards at the appropriate spot in this video, and I'm also going to put links in the description. Now, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the planting of these potatoes after I clear out this garden bed. And I'm going to do that in a quick way. I'll talk you through what we're going to do, but I'm also going to link some videos to previous, more in-depth planting videos so you can see what our process looks like. Our goal is consistent, strong yields, and while we don't always get that, if we can be consistent at planting time, that helps to remove one variable from the process. Now we're taking advantage of succession planting with this bed. That means that this is the second crop going into this bed. We just recently harvested the hardneck garlic that we planted in the fall. In fact, that video just came out, so if you haven't checked that out, you really should. So in the bed right now, we still have one leggy volunteer tomato plant that I'm gonna pull out of here. I don't know where it came from. Well, I don't know which kind of tomato it is, but we don't need it in here. And then we left 3 garlic plants in here with their scapes still attached because we want them to flower and then go to seed. We want to collect some of those garlic seeds. So those are going to stay in the bed. I don't think they're going to have any impact on our potatoes getting started. We're just going to work around them. So I'm going to clear all that out. I'm going to go ahead and add fertilizer to the bed as we need it, and then I'll plant the potatoes. And when it comes to adding fertilizer to our bed, we like to do an all-purpose. Basically, that means a balanced fertilizer. And we've used a couple of different fertilizers in the past. So really, it's whatever you prefer in terms of a balanced fertilizer, whatever's available. We've used Garden Tone, we've used Holly Tone, but we just want a nice balanced fertilizer because we're gonna add that bone meal in as well. The bone meal is gonna add a good source of phosphorus to our soil. And that's something that the root crops really like. Now, adding fertilizer is one of the few times you're gonna see me wearing garden gloves because I don't like to have gloves on in the garden typically. Now, as I mentioned, we've already done other videos where we've shown you exactly more in depth how we plant our potatoes, but I want you to know that when we're planting in a raised bed like this, and this raised bed is about 18 inches deep on one side, and because the ground's not exactly level, it goes down to about 24 inches deep on the other end. But it's plenty deep for potatoes. The mix that we have in here is a nice, well-draining mix that has been developed over time from the initial start of cocoa cure, a little bit of peat moss, some of our native soil, and multiple years worth of organic compost. So we've got the nice mix in here for our potatoes. We've never actually grown potatoes in this bed. We've grown sweet potatoes in here before, but this will be our first time with potatoes, but we have grown it in that similar mix to good success in the past. Now, when we're planting in a raised bed like this, we're not planting in rows. Instead, we're digging a hole typically between 5 or 6 inches deep, and that's what we're putting our potatoes in, and we're spacing them out about a foot apart. So we try to maximize our planting area without overcrowding the potatoes. And one of the nice things about growing in a raised bed is that that soil mix is so nice and loose that when it comes time to start mounding, I can just take from around the surrounding area of the plant and mound up or hill our potatoes with a really easy use of my hands. I mean, it's a simple way to hill our potatoes. I should mention that we do put a little bit of bone meal and mycorrhizal underneath the seed potato as well to get it going nicely. I'm gonna level it out a little bit more, but this bed is fully planted. I got 12 really nice seed potatoes in this bed. And so we're gonna see what happens here. By the way, as I was planting, I got hit in the head with a Japanese beetle. So we're starting to see a few of them around. Let us know in the comments if you're starting to see some Japanese beetles. Let us know in the comments what you think the results of this planting are going to be. And if you're excited for some more Team Potato action, just know that we've got some harvest coming your way before too long. Well, let us know if you enjoyed today's video. If you have some seed potatoes left over, why not give it a try? Get out there and see if you can plant them like we did. There's lots of different methods to try, and we'll see what our results are, and we'd love to hear what yours are as well. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.